it going, everybody? My name is Ian and you are watching the ND MX-5 channel. And today I'm going to show you how to install an engine intake into your ND Miata. So I picked up this engine intake kit secondhand, and so far everything seems really high quality. It's got all the bits and pieces, all the hardware that you need, hoses, washers, nuts, bolts. It's got that heat shielding here behind the intake itself, intake, filter, a little rain sock there, and instructions, which if you follow these along in this tutorial should be a really simple installation process. All you're really going to need is a couple screwdrivers, some pliers for the hose clamps, Allen wrenches, and then a basic socket set. Starting here on the car, it doesn't really matter what order we do these first couple steps in, but we're definitely going to want to unplug the mass airflow sensor. It just has a little connector right there. We'll also have to remove it from the stock intake tube with our Phillips head screwdriver. That way we can place it onto the new engine intake. Next, we'll need to remove this hose here for the PCV system. Simply disconnect it from the engine by pulling it off like that. Then we're also going to remove the sound tube here. Engine includes this little silicone cap, and that's supposed to go over here because they just say to remove this part of the sound tube. But since the new intake doesn't use the sound tube at all, essentially destroys the function of it, we're just going to take this whole system out completely. No reason to keep it around. So we'll go ahead and take off this hose clamp here and then get to these two 10mm bolts, and the whole sound tube should lift off and come out of the firewall there. On second thought, I think I am going to keep just this portion of the sound tube there and use that cap, because removing it does leave a hole down there in the firewall which goes directly into the cabin, and until I get something to plug that up and seal it up, I'm going to go ahead and keep this little half of the sound tube assembly there, but just remove the portion that would connect to the intake. It's just a simple hose clamp. Then we'll put the vacuum cap on here and reattach the hose clamp. Now, using the 10mm or a Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to loosen this bolt right down here that connects the stock intake tube onto the throttle body. And with that loosened up, let's just take that tube off. And then we've got a couple of little metal clips along the perimeter of the airbox. Just remove those, and then we'll also take this little coolant tube off, and then using a flat blade screwdriver to remove the clip for the coolant tube, go ahead and take this off as well. And then the airbox should just lift right up and out. You might have to wiggle the lines around a little bit. Oh, and remove the mass airflow line as well. And then take some scissors or a knife and carefully remove this clip from the mass airflow wire as well. And there we have the stock, at least upper half, of the airbox. Now we just gotta pull this lower half off. Should just be on some quick release type mounts. There we go, there's one of them. And then a 10mm bolt right here. And you can also disconnect this radiator hose or coolant hose from this top portion here, get it out of the way. So now, with all those stock intake pieces out of the way, we can go ahead and begin to install the new intake, starting with this little vibra mount. They want you to thread it in right down here on the frame. So make sure to thread it in by hand, pretty much as tight as you can get it. And this is how you can tell this is a quality piece, because not just a hard mount, they literally give you a rubber mount to dampen any vibrations. That way it won't cause rattling and premature wear and tear on the intake. Next, we could take our heat shield. Make sure you install this vibra mount here at the top, and then place this little rubber grommet down here. We're going to align that grommet with that little plastic post sticking up, And then of course place the other hole in the intake heat shielding right here, right onto that mount there. If it doesn't line up, then you know you've done something wrong. And then of course make sure that the mass airflow cable is out of the way when you're doing this part of the installation. Just kind of wiggle it down there, find the mounting point for the rubber grommet and place it on the Vibra mount. And then it also should line up with this hole here at the top. Next we'll take the M8 nut, place it down here on the M8 Vibra mount. We'll just do it by hand for now. And then take the original bolt that was connecting the OEM intake piece right here, and we'll re-thread that through to get the heat shielding for the engine intake into place. Don't forget to place the washer underneath the nut for that Vibra mount, and we'll do it on the top one over here as well. Once they're both in place, we can go ahead and tighten them down. Now with the heat shielding in place, we could go ahead and slide the intake onto here. Go ahead and slide it over the throttle body first. If you have a 2019 and up, it might be a little bit tight, but you should be able to get it to fit, because they did increase the size of the throttle body a little bit compared to before 2019. But I was still able to get that on nicely, and then get it on the Vibra mount here as well. Let's go ahead and tighten up this silicone coupling first, so that way we know it's got a solid connection to the throttle body, and then we'll tighten up the Vibra mount over here. So using our Phillips head screwdriver, we're gonna get these little hose clamps nice and hand tight. Nothing too crazy, just make sure that it's tight enough to where you won't have any sort of vacuum leaks. Alright, so I don't know how well the camera picked it up, but you could definitely hear, at least in the revving at idle, a lot of induction noise from this intake. Even though the sound tube isn't connected, I can hear a lot of induction noise. Sounded really, really good. And so far, no check engine lights. I really like the way it sounds. I'll see how it changes things under load, and obviously in real driving scenarios over the next couple days. See if the butt dyno can tell a difference, and then I'll take this car on a real dyno to see if I made any actual gains with this intake, or if they're just a myth. So stay tuned for that video. I hope you guys found this one helpful and enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.